buying a first home can be confusing. There are so many factors to consider. Some of these include navigating KiwiSaver, budgeting and location of the property you're thinking of buying. There are so many variables. Joining us now is Debbie Roberts from Property Apprentice with the pathway of purchasing your very first home. Good morning.
Good morning to you too.
Nice to see you again, Debbie. So tell us about this pathway. What's the very first step?
The very first step, I think, is to actually believe that you can do it. You know, it's a mindset thing because there's so much in the media now about how people can't afford to buy their own home and they've been priced out of the market. And if you buy into that, you're never going to make an effort to do it. And the alternative's terrible. You know, you'll be renting forever. So rents are on the increase just about nationwide. So you need to put a plan in place and make it urgent. Housing is, it's a great time to get into the property market. Finance is cheap. You know, there's a good chance that the Reserve Bank is going to lift the restriction for the deposit requirement for first-home buyers, possibly in a couple of weeks' time when they make their monetary policy statement. So fingers crossed.
The deposit, I think, is the thing that makes people most nervous to believe it. You know, if you've only saved, 10 grand, 20 grand, depending on where you're living, that's not a lot of money for a deposit for a first home.
No, and you might not need as much deposit as you think either. There's a number of different ways that you can get your foot on the property ladder. So I think the best thing that you can do is talk to a good mortgage broker who understands the first home buyer market and can help you with the government grant process and the different subsidies that you might qualify for.
What about house versus apartment versus townhouse versus duplex? Is there any preference? Does it make a difference, especially when it comes to reselling on in a few years' time, you know?
Look, I think the important thing is to start where you start. You know, not everyone can afford to buy the dream home or the place that they're going to live in for the next 30 years. So just get your foot on the ladder. If further down the track, if that turns into a rental property, great. You know, it can just be a way for you to start building up a bit of equity without having to save that massive deposit first. If you wait 10 years, there's a good chance that houses are going to be twice as expensive as they are now. I don't think house prices are going to get any cheaper than they are today.
You talk about deposit, and that's one of the fees that you obviously one of the cash things you have to come up with, but what are the other hidden fees or costs that you have to pay, whether that be lawyers or builders report and stuff like that, and how costly can it be?
Yeah, so there's a number of sort of hidden expenses, and I'm going to be covering that the next time I'm on, actually, because I think that's more than just a 10-second answer. So there are a number of different things. I think when it comes to getting your first step on the ladder, first of all, you need to work out how much you can afford to pay to own your own home. So work out your budget, you know, and then talk to a mortgage broker to work out how much you can borrow based on your provable income. And then once you know that, have a look at recent sales in the area that you're looking at living in and see if the values in that area match your budget.
How do you get those numbers? Because
it's free.
Yes, but people have so much trouble about finding those numbers and finding reliable numbers.
Look, the easiest way to do it is to make friends with real estate agents and ask them to print out a recent list of recent comparable sales. It's free public information. Real estate agents subscribe to a website service that gives them those stats.
You know, because you have to go around, you have to look at so many properties that you get a pretty good understanding of value without even having to do that type of, computer research. You learn as you go along.
Yeah,
but
that
be
takes
prepared.
time. That takes time too. So, get a list of recent sales from an agent. That gives you a jump start. And don't just get a list of recent sales from the agent that is trying to sell you the house that you're looking at buying, because they'll give you a list of all of the most expensive sales in the area that, push that perceived value up.
And I think lower expectations, because I think the dream of the white picket fence and, 5 bathrooms and a pool out the back.
Well, in some areas that is out of reach for first home buyers. Now, unless they're prepared to commute, an hour and a half each day, which some people are, and that's fine. I think something that you could look at doing is buying a property that fits your budget and has potential to have a flatmate in at some stage if you need it, because at the moment interest rates are really low. When interest rates eventually go up, if that's going to put you under pressure, you need to have some alternative rather than just being forced into selling it, because that's never good for anyone. The only time you'll lose money in property is if you sell when the market's not working in your favour.
And what about the idea that there was a lot of talk when Auckland's property market started booming, of people banding together and buying together. You know, flatmates saying, "Oh, let's just buy the place." Do people actually do that? Is that actually very common, or is it actually a bit too difficult? And the experience you've had with working with property buyers,
it can work really well. The thing now is because of the responsible lending code that the banks all work towards. Now each of the individuals that are going in on the mortgage, they each individually have to be able to qualify for servicing the mortgage, the entire amount of debt, not just their portion of it.
It's not going to happen in some cases.
It can, because a lot of people are on high income. They just haven't been able to save up a deposit because they've been paying so much in rent.
True. Very quickly before we go, the webinar, where can we find the webinar?
Yeah, so we've got a recording, a video on our website. So if they go to the homepage of our website, propertyapprentice.co.nz, scroll down to the bottom and you'll see a video that I did with a mortgage broker all about this subject.
And next time we see you, we're going to be talking about...
We'll be talking about the hidden costs involved in purchasing property.
I'm looking forward to that.
We certainly are. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Thank you.
Always nice to see you. That is Debbie Roberts from Property Apprentice. Right now, it is 9 minutes away from 9. If you're a fan of Halloween...